Hi guys! Today I'm going to be reviewing The Bone Shard Daughter by Andrea Stewart. The Bone Shard Daughter takes place in a series of islands known as the Phoenix Empire, ruled by the Sukai dynasty. And a long time ago, the Sukais defeated a very strange and mysterious people known as the Ilanga. All that's left to even remind people that the Ilanga even existed are these strange artifacts and architecture that's unlike anything else that the empire has built itself. The Emperor uses this strange power known as Bone Shard magic to protect his people from the threat of the Ilanga ever coming back to destroy them, as well as to keep the empire running itself. And in order for him to use this magic, each member of his kingdom must go through a really dangerous tithing ritual that takes a bit of bone from behind their ear. This is a very controversial practice. I think it's like 1 in 8 children die because the people performing this ritual aren't always super careful. But this is where the magic comes from, is from each and every member of his empire. And these bone shards are used to power beings known as constructs, and these are like Frankenstein creatures that are built for different purposes. So he's got some really complex creatures that are like the overseers of bureaucracy, trade, war, and spies. And then he's got simpler creatures that sort of serve these more complex creatures, and they are found all throughout the kingdom. You can't come onto an island without encountering a construct that's going to be asking you what's on your boat and stuff like that. It's like this hierarchy of constructs, and several of them require more than just one bone shard. As these constructs live and perform their duties, it's draining the magic that the bone shard provides, and those bone shards are still linked to the people that they were taken from. So eventually, once a person's bone shard is depleted of magic, they start to get sick and die. And they don't even know that their bone shard was used in the first place. The Emperor, at this time of the story that this takes place, has become a bit of a recluse. He's getting old. He's performing strange experiments in his castle. He doesn't really integrate himself with the city that his palace is in, or with the governors of the other islands that help him rule. There's a lot of rumors about what's happened to him and his family, but it's all very mysterious. And meanwhile, in other parts of the kingdom, rebellion is kind of starting to brew because of the emperor's complacency, because of the corrupt system that keeps poor people poor. The bone tithing is, again, very controversial, and people don't think it's necessary anymore. The Ilanga are long dead and gone. The constructs themselves, especially where some of them spy on citizens, are not loved at all. So people want this practice to be done and over. And there's even a resistance group called the Shardless Few who are trying to topple corrupt governors and take over the islands one by one. This is a multi-point of view fantasy story, so we follow several key players. The first one is Lynn, and she's the Emperor's daughter. She can't remember anything about her life before 5 years ago. She apparently had this sickness that affected her memory. She's 23, I believe, at the beginning of the story, and she can't remember anything from when she was a child. She seeks to prove her own abilities with bone shard magic to her father, who is very withholding of his information and his knowledge of bone shard magic himself. She has to come to him with memories that she's recovered in order to gain access to this knowledge and to even rooms in the palace that she lives. And so she really has to fight to earn her right as heir because, again, he's so withholding of this information. And she starts to have to kind of sneak around to try to collect it for herself because there's something much more mysterious afoot here, and she's getting to the point where she doesn't believe her father is capable of ruling anymore. He's neglecting his duties. He's very old. So she wants to make sure she's prepared to become emperor herself. We also follow Jovis, and Jovis is my favorite character. He is a smuggler with a heart of gold. He's on this years-long mission to find his wife, who went missing, I believe, 7 years before the events of the story take place. All that was left behind was 19 coins on their bed and rumors of a blue-sailed boat seen around their island. So he's trying to track down the boat and hopefully find the answers to her disappearance and even her herself. He's eventually joined by an adorable animal companion, and their relationship is so touching and I love it. It's my favorite part about this book. And together they accidentally start to become sort of heroes of this rebellion. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil anything, but their relationship brings about a very mysterious element and gives them the ability to do things that they couldn't otherwise do alone. We also have Feilu, and she's a governor's daughter. And a governor rules an island and acts as an extension of the emperor's power because he can't be in all these islands at once. So Feilu doesn't really approve of the way her father is running things, but the governorship is an inherited role, and eventually she will become governor herself, and so she's just thinks that, you know, when it's her turn, she'll run things better. She'll be more fair. Her father's very like self-indulgent, spends a lot of his wealth on really like opulent things, and people on her island are suffering. But she still loves her father and is willing to wait for her time to be governor. However, her girlfriend Renami is much more critical of what he's doing and of the empire as a whole. She thinks the system is broken, people are suffering, and she refuses to marry Feilu and become a governor's wife herself because she believes it will make her complicit to the corrupt system, and she just refuses to be a part of that, despite her love for Feilu. And lastly, we have a character named Sand. This character is definitely the most mysterious of them all. We first meet her and she's picking mangoes on this island that seems otherwise removed from civilization. She doesn't know why she's picking mangoes, only that she has to. And she suffers a fall from one of the mango trees, and it sort of jogs something in her memory, and she starts getting flashbacks of a previous life, and she starts to question who she is and what she's doing on this island. I loved this book so much. This was definitely a 5-star read for me. It was a really refreshing take, I thought, on the fantasy genre as a whole, rather than inspired by like medieval Europe, like a lot of fantasy we find. It definitely has like more East Asian inspirations and influences, but it's still like its own thing. It's not like a mirrored political system by any means. And just like the layout of this empire being like on a series of several islands I thought was really interesting. And the animal companion, his name is Mephi, is the star of the show. I wish I could tell you what type of creature he is, but it's really mysterious even within like the context of the story. He's definitely got some sort of magical ability though, and he's just got so much personality. I loved him so much. And again, his relationship with Jovis, the smuggler, was just so special and touching. And it was my favorite part of the book was their relationship. And Mephi himself was just so cool. And he's unlike any other like magical creature I've seen in a book before. You know, he's not like a dragon or a unicorn or anything. Like he's his own thing, and I just thought that was so cool and unique. I also really liked the way Andrea Stewart handled queer characters in this book. There are quite a few, and their queerness is totally like normalized. Feilu specifically, I was expecting kind of more of a confrontation between her and her father because she is dating a woman, she's in love with a woman, and where the governorship is an inherited role, you know, I was expecting concern about her ability to, you know, have children of her own and pass on their rule through this family line, because that's something you see a lot. But it is just totally normal in this society to adopt orphans and like take them into their home and they're your family. So Feilu and Renami were like the main queer couple, but there are several like sort of side characters, and again, it's just a totally normal thing, and I thought that was so refreshing. You know, not every queer story has to be like this fight, I guess, to be accepted, and there's so much other stuff going on. It was just so cool to see it be like totally normal. I highly recommend this book. Again, this was a 5 out of 5 read for me. It's the beginning of a series. I'm not entirely sure how long the series is supposed to be. I know the next book, The Bone Shard Emperor, Goodreads says it's supposed to come out November of this year, so I will be picking that up the second it comes out. I'm so excited for the continuation of this series. I think we have a cast of really special, interesting characters. There's so many mysteries that the first book resolved a couple of them, but it definitely left you wanting more and wanting to see like where it goes. So I just thought this was a super fun, exciting fantasy novel. It's so different than anything else I've ever read before. So if you really like fantasy and are looking for maybe something a little different, I highly, highly, highly recommend The Bone Shard Daughter by Andrea Stewart. Feel free to leave your comments down below if you've got any questions, or if you also read this book, feel free to gush about it. I want somebody to talk about this book with, because I feel like it's really underrated. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day. Bye.